President Trump is set to hold an event at the White House to tout his administration's support for coal mining. Joining us to discuss this is Derrick Morgan, Executive Vice President of the Heritage Foundation. Derrick, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
My pleasure. I'm doing great.
So I want to talk to you about this. The Wall Street Journal reported that Trump will receive the first undisputed champion of coal award from the Washington Coal Club for announcing funding for 5 new coal power plants. Why should we be celebrating this, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think making the most out of all of America's resources is what we have to do. When you think about the race for AI, United States versus China, we need to make sure that we have cheap, reliable energy sources, and that includes coal. And coal will be a big part of it. And if you don't believe me, look also at what China's doing. They're building more coal capacity than the rest of the world. And so making sure that we make plentiful use of our coal is going to help us in that AI race.
Okay, so you talk about cheap, reliable energy. Can you compare and contrast for us coal versus other forms of energy, including green energy?
Yeah, coal is the biggest thing it has is a reliability. It's got dense energy and it can be stockpiled so that you can always have it on hand. The sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing. And so coal has that reliability factor. It's also plentiful in the United States. We have hundreds and hundreds of years of supplies in the United States. So if we make sure that we're have good environmental laws so that coal that we're burning is as clean as it possibly can be, it will be reliable, it will be affordable, it can be that 24-hour base load energy. Of course, that's not to say you don't want to have other things like nuclear energy, of course, or natural gas, which we have in abundance in the United States as well. But coal should certainly be part of the picture. And unfortunately, it was the previous administration, actually the Obama administration first, that tried to push out coal altogether. And that was just a colossal mistake. And President Trump has turned the corner. And now we're on the precipice of a new golden age in energy.
So, Derrick, you talk about environmental laws surrounding coal. I would not be surprised at all. In fact, I would predict that critics will argue about the impact on global warming and climate change regarding coal. What do you say to that? Should we be concerned about that?
Well, it's called global warming. It's supposed to be a global issue. And if you look at what China is doing, they're moving full speed ahead on coal. In fact, it dwarfs anything that we do in the United States. In fact, we've have modeling done here at Heritage that if you took all of our greenhouse gas emissions in the United States altogether and turned it down to zero, you'd have only an imperceptible, less than 0.2 of a degree change in temperature and global temperature. So the fact is that making sure coal is part of our picture is not really going to impact that picture at all. We have the cleanest and best technology for coal in the world, and it should certainly be part of our energy mix.
So Energy Secretary Chris Wright is set to announce a new executive order directing the War Department to buy electricity from coal plants. I want to ask you, what difference will this make in terms of the supply of electricity? Do you think this will make Americans' electric bills lower?
It'll be a relatively small impact on the total amount of electricity that's provided in the United States. There's no doubt about that. But what is important here is that it's a sea change. It's changing the outlook. How do we look at energy sources? Coal was basically taken completely off the table back in the Obama administration, where he said, sure, you can build a coal plant, but it's going to go bankrupt. Now we've changed that trajectory. So while this one move isn't going to be earth-shattering in that respect, it is in the direction. It's a very clear signal from Washington. This, along with some of the other moves the president has done, particularly the GHG endangerment finding, which is on absolutely solid legal ground. If you combine those things, you see, okay, coal can be a part of our energy future. And of course, what we would like to see is all of the energy sources competing. Who can provide the most reliable and affordable energy for the American consumers? And coal ought to have a chance to compete.
So earlier in this conversation, you brought up China's use of coal. Can you dive a bit deeper into that? What is China doing exactly when it comes to coal?
Yeah, they are putting online dozens and dozens of coal plants just by the month, and in particular by the year. The fact is that they have looked at what their natural resource mix is, and they don't want to be reliant on other countries, which is quite plausible and understandable. They do have plentiful coal there. They also would like to have some nuclear, and they have made a big bet on renewables. And what they've done there is to try to get the rest of the world hooked on their technology, their solar and their wind. They produce so much of the components of solar and of wind in China, and they saw that Western countries were going to force their way into the renewable picture. And so they've positioned themselves to try to take advantage of that. That's one of the reasons why this Trump plan is so masterful. He's not buying that old consensus. Instead, he's looking what actually works, what energy is actually affordable, and what will make us strong as a nation. Being reliant on green energy will not make us strong as a nation. It'll actually make us much more reliant on China.
Just one last question here, Derrick. Is there a gap right now between electricity demand and supply in the U.S. as we speak? And how much of a share does coal account for in U.S. power production?
Coal has a declining share compared to where it was 25 or 30 years ago, for sure. But a number of plants have been extended because we have found it to be very, very reliable. And all of the projections show that we are going to have a big deficit in the amount of energy provided compared to what we need when you look at the massive increase in AI expansion. So we're going to need all sources of energy, certainly coal, natural gas, everything from nuclear, thermal. We'll need it all. And the more moves like this that the administration does, getting the government artificial barriers out of the way and allowing all of these energy sources to compete, the stronger footing will be on. After all, it's good news for the energy business if you're saying the energy demand is going to be much higher. We just have to give them the tools, the freedom, the permitting reform, all of that to allow them to build the capacity. And I'm confident we can do that, and then we can win the race for AI.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. A lot of the barriers that the U.S. has is imposed by itself onto itself. Okay, Derrick, thank you for speaking with us today.
My pleasure. Great to be with you.